Joining me now is Gordon Chang. He's been very busy on his social media, particularly on X, but he's also busy writing over at the Gatestone Institute. And there is a lot happening in the world to write about. We need to visit with him. And so we're glad he is able to make time for us tonight. Mr. Chang, welcome back to the broadcast. Thank you for being with us.
Well, thank you so much, Brannon. I really appreciate it.
Let's talk a little bit about what is happening on the college campuses. I wouldn't go this direction, but I was watching some of your X account, your tweets today, and I appreciate what you're saying. And I'm a little distressed tonight by some of the people who I have agreed with on economic issues, political issues, some social issues. I'm shocked at some of them claiming that somehow we who are opposed to the lawlessness on the college campus are somehow now joining in with the leftists to destroy freedom of speech and private assembly. I guess I'll tell you my position, and I'd like to hear yours because I know you're commenting on this on your social media. I think when you're tracking people down and getting in their face and surrounding them and intimidating them and physically assaulting them and threatening them, that's not freedom of speech. That's not freedom of peaceful assembly. That's stalking. That's domestic terrorism, as the government wants to call it. That's a violation of the law. But when you're shouting genocidal slogans at them, and again, making them feel physically at risk, not letting them get to their classrooms, telling them that you're not welcome here. This is a Jew-free zone. We're going to push you out. And yet they've paid to be there. They have the right to be there. I'm stunned at some of the people that I'm seeing on social media, some of them that I've interviewed, saying that somehow if we are in agreement with the police in Texas or other places clearing these campuses, that somehow we all of a sudden have joined the fascist left. I remember Ronald Reagan and the black and white footage of Ronald Reagan in the 60s clearing the campuses when they were disrupting the schools. What are you shocked by this as well from people that maybe you've also been interviewed by?
I am shocked. I mean, first of all, the First Amendment does not protect assault. It doesn't protect all of the things that you talked about. Also, it does not protect an incitement to murder. And when people say gas the Jews or behead the babies, that is an incitement to murder. And that's not protected by the First Amendment. And I believe that those people should actually be prosecuted. And those who are not American citizens who say that, they should be deported as well. This is a serious situation. It's spreading across our campuses and across our society. And we know that China is fueling this. So this has really become quite a national security matter for us.
Well, I'm glad you said that last line, because it was like you read my mind, because that was my next question. How much do you think the CCP, some of these groups, Iran, I mean, we know that we got Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, the BRICS system, they're adding in the United Arab Emirates, they're adding in Iran. How much do you think not only China, the CCP, but Iran is involved in funding this chaos in America to help destabilize us before they move against maybe, say, Taiwan this fall?
Well, Chinese owned TikTok, if you look at the videos on Hamas, 96.5% of them are supporting the terrorist group. And that is because China's curation algorithm, the one that determines what you see and what you don't see, is supporting Communist Party propaganda narratives. And one of them is to actually back Hamas, back the Houthi militia, back Hezbollah, back Iran. So this is being fueled by China. And we've got to understand that, because China does not have a First Amendment right to destabilize the United States.
Let's go to this tweet you put out on April 23rd. These missiles are raising the cost of China's adventurism in the South China Sea. I'd like to know why the U.S. hasn't been selling such missiles to the Philippines and, for that matter, to Taiwan. Tell me about these missiles and again, where did they touch down?
These are the BrahMos missiles that India has been able to manufacture. They basically are derived from Russian models. The Indians have improved them, and now they're selling them to the Philippines, which were just delivered a few days ago. This makes life very difficult for China because these can actually take ships that have come from China and are trying to break apart the Philippines. Now, we should have been doing this a long time ago, and especially with regard to Taiwan, but Taiwan has been forced to develop its own cruise missiles. They should have had our cruise missiles. We should have been supplying them in great quantities to make Taiwan, as they say, a porcupine. In other words, to make it impossible to invade.
You also tweeted this out. The world's fate is in the hands of China, now ruled by one man with a totalitarian control, messianic ambition, strategic impatience, and implacable resolve. On the other hand, we have a decrepit president who can't even call Xi Jinping a threat. Here we go. The headline, China is battening down for the gathering storm over Taiwan. Are you still thinking that we might see a move on Taiwan by China as soon as this fall?
Brannon, it could be at any time. Now, I tend to think that it won't be this year for a number of reasons, but, we don't know. And we also know that inside China right now, there are developments that we can't see, and they could be pushing Xi Jinping to take us by surprise. So we need to be ready for anything at any place at any time. We can all have a discussion of what's probable and what's not, but we need to be prepared right now because the Chinese political system is going off the rails. And because of that, Xi Jinping has incentives that we just don't understand.
You also tweeted this, that the CCP have been working with the cartels, the gangs in Mexico for years. Of course, now this should scare the living daylights out of Americans. Now, because now we're talking about militarizing, these cartels are already militarized, but these cartels, we're being told that they're already bringing in, dragging in, the CCP are shipping in these Glock switches, turning semi-automatics into automatics. We have seen video footage that we showed here last year with Annie Cyrus, one of our associate producers, a video put out by the Islamic Revolutionary Guard of large, airplane drones, all lined up, being pushed into the air. And then they were coming in to cardboard cutouts of humans, and they were then hitting the ground and exploding. And we played the video and slowed it and stopped it. And you could see that when they exploded, there was obviously shrapnel in those bombs, and it was scattering across the crowd of cardboard cutouts and penetrating them. So there seems to be already, from the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, video saying this is one of our capabilities. How do we know that this is not going on in Mexico, that the CCP, that Iran, Hamas, Hezbollah, any of these groups are not operating over there on our border, and that this is, of course, one of the concerns about a, quote, coordinated attack in the U.S. that the FBI Director Christopher Wray is warning about now?
Well, Iran is deeply involved in our region, especially in Venezuela. And Venezuela is really behind the surge of migrants into the United States because this has been weaponized. This has, Joseph Humeyer of the Society for a Secure Free Society, he has been talking about how Venezuela has been behind all of this. So you put Iran and Venezuela together, and you got to be extremely concerned. Of course, you have the Chinese gangs in Mexico, plus also the Mexican cartels, the two major cartels that are responsible for most of the fentanyl trade. They actually employ Chinese technicians to mix the precursors that come from China and to make them into pills. And then those are then shipped across our border, a wide open border, by the way, by the cartels. So there is a close coordination between Chinese gangsters, the Chinese triads, and the Mexican cartels.
And here's another tweet you put out. Hello, America. China launched a JL-2 ballistic missile from a submarine on the eve of Anthony Blinken's arrival in Beijing. And you provided a link to the news article that talks about that. Tell me the importance of this. I mean, I guess talk about disrespect. And I don't know if it was you or someone else was noticing there was no red carpet when he walked down the stairs from his airplane. No red carpet. Is that something to really be worried about, or was that a deliberate disrespecting of him, not to mention this launch right before he arrives?
Yeah, that was a tweet from Hu Suijin, who used to be the editor of Global Times, which is a Communist Party propaganda outlet. And what I did was I retweeted Hu Sui-jin's tweet, because what he was saying basically was that Beijing, as a matter of policy, was disrespecting our top diplomat as he arrived in Shanghai. There was no red carpet, no senior official there. So Blinken came to a very cold welcome. But before that, China launched this JL-2 intercontinental ballistic missile from a submarine just 2 days before Blinken's arrival. That certainly was a message. And there was a barrage of Chinese Communist Party and central government propaganda about Blinken's visit, trying to basically put him into his place, to humiliate him. So, if I were the Secretary of State, I just would have turned the plane around, because this is not the act of a government that really wants to have cooperative relations with the U.S. Now, I think Blinken was naive in terms of planning a trip to China. He should have never planned it in the first place. But when his plane was in the air and when the Chinese were doing this, he just should have said, I'm not subjecting myself and I'm not subjecting the United States of America to this humiliation.
And then you also tweeted this. Sound familiar? We're not the only one with a Chinese migrant problem. The Philippine military is worried about a surge of people from China. Is this,
Yes.
again, part of the destabilization in another area with another nation that we have agreements with, whether it's them going after South Korea, and now, of course, we have Kim Jong-un giving a nuclear signal warning to the U.S. and to South Korea, which, of course, we've talked about that. What will be our responsibility as America with our agreements to South Korea to help out there? Then you have them fooling around with the Philippines. What will be our agreements that we have to fulfill there? Now we're in Israel. Now we're in Ukraine. Now we've got problems in the Red Sea. I mean, we got problems in Mexico. We got problems in as you already said, in Venezuela. We have no idea what they have in northern Venezuela, in Caracas, about 1,264 miles as the crow flies from there to Miami. I mean, at some point, we are getting stretched so thin militarily. But isn't that the goal? And now here's the Philippines, something we've been watching and wondering what might happen. You say that they're worried about a surge from China.
Yes, it's a surge of migrants. A lot of Americans say, well, these Chinese migrants, they pose no threat to the U.S. But we're seeing the same thing happen in the Philippines, where China wants to destabilize that country, and it's sending a surge of migrants there. Now, some of the migrants, maybe even most of them, are who they say they are. They're just desperate Chinese who are trying to leave their country because they've given up hope. But we also know, Brannon, 2 years ago, we were seeing primarily family groups come across our border who were Chinese. Now the Chinese are coming across. 80 to 85% of them are single males of military age, traveling without family members, some of them with links to the Chinese military, coming in packs of 5 to 15. And some observers have noted that these guys are coming across with identical backpacks, and that they stand in military bearing while they're waiting for Border Patrol to investigate them. So we got to be really concerned. And, there are a lot of very disturbing indications. Just one of them. And there's a website called Defiant America. At the end of January, it posted photos and videos of Chinese migrants in our country for less than 3 weeks who came with no identification, no money. And what were they doing? They were taking target practice with pistols, and in one case, a sniper rifle. And that's not the only instance where this has been observed, because that's been observed also in other locations as well from other sources. So, we got to be extremely concerned what these migrants are up to.
How easy is it to get out of China? You say they may be just fleeing a bad economy and a problem. I mean, can you just get up and take your luggage and walk out of China? I mean, we're seeing them show up. They look so fit, the long videos of the Chinese military-age males. They look fit, their clothes are clean, they got their bags with them, they got their nice suitcases with them. I mean, I'm thinking to myself, they look like they just landed.
Yes, and actually some of them have just landed. Most of the Chinese migrants, they have to go to Ecuador because Ecuador allows visa-free entry for Chinese. And then they've got to make their way up through South America, through the Darien Gap, which separates Colombia and Panama, and then they got to get across Central America. That's quite a trek. But we are also starting to see some more wealthy Chinese actually go directly to Mexico and then cross our southern border. So that makes it a lot easier for them to do so. To answer your question, Chinese can leave China. The regime knows what they're doing, but they don't actually stop them. That very well may change because I think the regime is starting to be embarrassed by the flow of Chinese migrants out of the country. Because it's not just to the United States. It's not just to the Philippines. It's also to Europe, which is being flooded with Chinese migrants. And there, it just does not, it's not a good look for Xi Jinping, who's trying to say that his country is the world's most important nation. When people are trying to flee it, it just doesn't, it undercuts the leader's narrative.
I could talk to you all night. One more topic that you tweeted about 14 hours ago. China is providing shelter to a Russian vessel implicated in sanctioned arms trade. And here we go. China harbors ship tied to North Korea, Russia, arms transfers. This is satellite imagery. Again, it kind of shows you Russia, China, North Korea, Iran. These groups are all in military and economic alliance, are they not?
Well, they certainly are. There are a lot of very smart people in New York and Washington who say, well, China and Russia, they've been at each other's throats for centuries. They'll never form a durable partnership. And I say, okay, let's assume that's true. But I don't care whether China and Russia are still together in the 2040s and the 2050s. I care about this decade where Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin are forming a durable partnership. It may not last as long as, after they leave this earth, but the point is right now they are an axis. And then with them are Iran, North Korea, maybe Algeria, and they are destabilizing the world. So this is what we got to deal with right now.
And let's show his Twitter handle so people can follow him. At Gordon G. Chang. Folks, you got to get the G in there or you got the wrong gentleman. The other one is not one that shares the same worldview as Mr. Gordon G. Chang. So get the G in there so you get it right. At Gordon G. Chang, if you want to keep up with what's going on. And of course, you can also go over to the Gatestone Institute. He's a fellow there at the Gatestone Institute, writes great articles over there, a lot of great research at the Gatestone Institute. Anything else you want to mention or plug tonight?
Brannon, what you're talking about is just so important because I was listening to the segment before mine and, you're raising some critical issues that the American people need to confront because if we don't confront them, we're going to lose our country. So, hats off to you for really very, very important work. And I thank you very much for giving me the time to talk to you today.
No, the pleasure is all ours. You educate us so well. Thank you for all your hard work. It is a team effort. We know that. And we wish you and your wife so many blessings and appreciate all you guys do. I know she works very, very hard with you and our whole audience. Always, we get great feedback whenever you're on. You're one of my wife's favorites. She likes all of our guests, but she has a few favorites. And when she ever hears you're coming on, she's like, what time's he coming on? So I can be sure to watch. I'm like, what do you mean be sure to watch? You're supposed to watch the whole thing. But she always appreciates when you come on. So thank you, Mr. Chang. Appreciate it. Greet your wife for me.
Yeah, and thank you so much.
Thank you. Gordon Chang checking in again. At Gordon G. Chang. At Gordon G. Chang. All right. Always enjoy our visits. And he is so prolific on the X. You got to follow the X account, his Twitter account. I'm not used to saying X. I like the Twitter still. You got to follow him because you're not hearing a lot of this in the mainstream media, okay? It's very important you follow him and then read about him over at the Gatestone Institute. He's got great articles at the Gatestone, along with other great writers over there as well. Folks, readers are leaders. It's important to read. I spend so many hours reading. In fact, today I got a stack of books in the mail this high. I got to get my hand up above the lower third. I got a stack of books about that high today. And I don't have to read every one of them cover to cover, but I can certainly peruse them and pick out the best chapters, I think, based on the contents and the table of contents. But read, folks. You got to read. You got to read.